Hello everyone, this is NCERT as it is series for JEE Mains and NEET. So this is the part 1 video of surface chemistry. In this video, right, we look at what is it that we will study in surface chemistry, the idea of adsorption, how the adsorption phenomena will work, and types of adsorption, and also the empirical formula or empirical studies on adsorption. At the end, we will also look at what are some of the practical applications or uses of the adsorption. Okay, so we will start the discussion. First, when we talk about surface chemistry, right, so it is basically dealing with the phenomena that is happening at the surfaces or interface. When we say surfaces or interface, right, like say for example, we have a solid which is in contact with a liquid. So we have an interface here. Similarly, if you have a solid which is in contact with the gas, there also we will have an interface. And you can also have an interface between a liquid and a gas. But since two gases mix with each other, right, gases will be mixing thoroughly with each other, so we cannot have interface between two gases. And how do we, for the sake of representation, how do we give the interface representation? Like if we want to mention about solid gas interface, means we will put a solid hyphen gas or a solid slash gas, like that. And when we talk about the interface, right, interface is at most of the thickness of few layers of molecules. And most of the important phenomena in chemistry, right, whether it is corrosion or the electrode process, heterogeneous catalysis, dissolution, crystallization, so all of them, they will happen at the surfaces. And the surface chemistry applications we will find in industry, like one of the very important applications of the surface chemistry is heterogeneous catalysis. And even we will see the applications of the surface chemistry phenomena in day-to-day life also. We will see all those examples as we go into the discussion. Okay. Now, when we want to study a surface, suppose there is a surface, we want to study it, means there should be nothing on it, it should be clean. When we use the word clean, right, it is not just about removing the dust particles, we should even remove the molecules of the air present on the surface. Like air means what? You will predominantly have O2 or N2. Along with that, we also have traces of carbon dioxide and other inert gases. So to remove them, right, we have to maintain a very high vacuum. Normally, what is the atmosphere pressure? 1 atm means 1.01 in 10 power 5 pascals, right? From there, we have to take it down to what? 10 power minus 8 to 10 power minus 9 pascals. Only then these air molecules that are on the surface, right, they will be removed. That's when we can have the clean surface. So broadly, what we are going to cover in this chapter, surface chemistry, is we'll talk about adsorption phenomena, we'll discuss about the catalysis, and we will talk about the colloids. So we'll have some important types of colloids, emulsion, milk is an example of emulsion, and gels. So we'll see about the colloids also. In fact, the chapter, right, we are going to do in 3 videos. The first video we'll talk about the adsorption, second video we'll talk about the catalysis, third video we'll talk about the colloids. Okay, so let's start with the adsorption. What is adsorption? As we said, it's a phenomena that happens at the surface. Now when you look at the surface of a solid, right, practically what will be observed through various experimental studies is that the surface of the solid has a tendency to attract and retain the molecules of the phase with which it comes into contact. Means imagine you have a solid. This is coming in contact with a gas. The surface of the solid, right, has got the ability to attract and retain the particles of the gas molecules on the surface of it. These molecules, right, they remain only on the surface. They don't go into the bulk of the solid. This phenomena, right, that is what we call as adsorption. What is adsorption? The accumulation of molecular species at the surface rather than in the bulk of the solid or the liquid. Same way, if you have a liquid, right? So we have a liquid. This is a liquid. A gas is in contact. The gas particles can come and settle on the surface of the liquid. So we have a gas. The gas particles can come and settle on the surface of the liquid, but they will be only on the surface. They don't get into the bulk. Okay. So when you look at, the molecular species or the gaseous particles, right, which is coming and settling on the surface, that is accumulated on the surface, that's what we call as adsorbate. Like in solutions case, right? So solution will be having what? A solute and a solvent. I mean, of course, we can have many solutes also, but you'll have a solute that is getting into the solvent. Same way here, this gas here will be called as what? Adsorbate, like solute. And the surface on which the adsorption is happening, right, that is what we call as adsorbent. Okay, so what is this going to be called as? Adsorbent. So here in this case, right, the gas will be called as what? Adsorbate, and solid will be called as what? Adsorbent. So mainly here we look at three types of this adsorption. Three types means it is not like we are classifying it. We can have adsorption of a gas on solid. We can have adsorption of liquid on solid. Liquid means the solute particles from liquid, they can come and settle on the surface of solid in contact. Or we can have adsorption of gas particles on the liquid surface. Okay. Now when you look at the adsorption, it's basically a surface phenomena. And what is also observed is when you take a finely divided solid, remember in properties of fluid chapter you will study, if you have a spherical object, it will have a lesser surface area. If you break these into small spheres, right, the surface area will be what? Increasing. Similarly, if you have a crystalline solid, that will have a lesser surface area. If you have a porous means what? You will have fine holes on the surface. Or we finely divide the solid particles, then what we can achieve is we will be able to achieve a higher surface area. So porous solid or a finely divided solid will be able to give us a larger surface area. So larger surface area will be able to give us a better adsorption. So when you have the common adsorbents that we are going to talk about in this chapter, we'll talk about charcoal, we'll talk about even animal charcoal, we'll talk about silica gel, we'll talk about alumina gel, we'll talk about clay, etc. So all of them, when you have the particles finely divided, even metals also, when you have the particles finely divided, we will see that they will be able to act as good adsorbent. Why? Simple reason. What is it? The surface area will be what? Increasing. The surface area will be increasing. So we will see how exactly surface area will play a role in adsorption when we go to the mechanism of adsorption or the adsorption process, right? When we discuss about it, we will see how the area will correlate to the adsorption phenomena. Okay, so this is a brief into what is adsorption. Now, where all do we see adsorption? Like if you take the gases like oxygen, hydrogen, carbon monoxide, chlorine, and put them in a closed vessel. We put them in closed vessel and we keep some powdered charcoal. See here also what we are saying, powdered charcoal. So powdered charcoal will have a larger surface area. So it will be able to act as a better adsorbent. Now after some time what we will see is the pressure of the gases in the container will be decreasing. The pressure of the gases in the container will be decreasing. Why? Because some of these gas particles will get adsorbed on the surface of the solid. Solid means here the powdered charcoal. Because of this, what happens? The number of particles in the gas medium will be what? Reducing. So pressure obviously will be reducing. So what is the reason for the decrease of pressure? See, all these are possible reasoning questions. What happens? The molecules of the gases, right, they will concentrate at the surface of the charcoal. In other way, what we can say, the gases are adsorbed onto the surface of the charcoal. Same way, if you take a solution of organic dye, see generally organic dye, basically they'll impart characteristic colors, the pigments, right, they'll have the colors. So if you take the solution of the organic dye and we add some animal charcoal to it, okay, so we add some animal charcoal to it and we shake it up, then what we'll see is if we shake it properly, that the solution or the filtrate, it will simply become colorless. Why? What happens here is because all these organic dye molecules, right, they will be coming and concentrating on the surface of the animal charcoal, and that is the reason why so in solution we don't have any more organic pigment, so that becomes colorless. So the molecules of the dye, they accumulate on the surface of the animal charcoal. Even I think, you know, some of us will see it, like when you buy sugarcane juice from the normal roadside places where they'll just take the juice out of the sugarcane by having a machine, right, you'll see that it will have some characteristic color, and that color, right, is because of what the aqueous solution of the raw sugar, it will have a color, that is because of the pigments present in it. But when you pass the same solution over the beds of animal charcoal, then what we will see is that once you pass it over it, the solution becomes what? Colorless. Again, same phenomena. Whatever the coloring substances, right, they are adsorbed on the surface. So like you take a bed, this is the bed of the charcoal, and we are passing that colored solution over it. So we pass the colored solution over the bed. By the time, you know, the solution is coming out of the bed, all the coloring particles, right, they would have settled on the surface of the charcoal. Even I'm sure you will see that for certain specific electronic devices, something, you will see that they will be keeping silica gel packets in it. Why? Because the silica gel will be able to remove any moisture in the closed environment, like inside the vessel or the container, the air, whatever the moisture that is present in it, we know normally air will have moisture, right? So the silica gel will be able to remove the moisture from the air, and those water molecules will be adsorbed on the surface of the silica gel. So this is how the silica gel packets, when you keep inside, they will maintain the dry air environment. Okay, so this is something that we will also observe commonly. Now when you look at all these examples, right, one thing that will come to our mind, what is it? The solid surfaces, they can hold the gas or liquid molecules due to the phenomena of adsorption. And whenever we look at any phenomena, right, like in equilibrium chapter, we have learned something. For every forward phenomena, there will be a reverse phenomena, whether it is a physical phenomena or a chemical phenomena. Now what we are saying is, okay, look, we have a solid. The particles from the gas or liquid, they are coming and settling on the solid surface. This is what we call as adsorption. There should be a reverse phenomena for that, right? What is the reverse phenomena? The particles which are already on the surface of the solid, they can be removed from the surface of the solid, and that is what we will be calling as a desorption. So if adsorption is like the forward, right, desorption is like the reverse. And just like the way we have equilibrium happening in physical processes as well as chemical reactions, right, here also we will have equilibrium. Here also we will have what? Equilibrium stage reached. We will talk about all those things. Now when you look at adsorption, right, we have been saying that this is a surface phenomena. But from our lower standards, we are also familiar with one more phenomena which is called as absorption. Absorption, we will be calling it as a bulk phenomena. We'll see what are the differences between adsorption and absorption. In adsorption, right, which is what we are discussing, surface phenomena, the substances will be concentrated only at the surface and they don't penetrate into the bulk of the adsorbent. They don't go inside, they will be only on the surface. Whereas in absorption, which is the bulk phenomena, the substance will go into the bulk. The molecules will be going into the bulk of the solid. Like, absorption, we can give a lot of examples. You take a sponge, put this in water. What happens? Sponge will absorb all the water. The water will go into the full solid of the sponge, right? So that is what is the absorption. It is absorbing. Now, if you take the example of a chalk stick and dip this into a ink solution, you can see here. What we'll observe is that the surface of the chalk, right, will retain the ink, means it will retain the color. Means the color part, right, is adsorbed. It is on the surface. Whereas the solvent, it will be usually what? Water. The solvent will be getting into the bulk of the chalk. So the solvent is getting what? It is getting absorbed. It is going into the chalk. Now, how do we clearly understand this? You break open the break means you break the chalk. Inside, what you will see is that it will be still in the white form. It will not get the color. Means what? Color is only on the surface. But inside it will be wet. Means the water has gone inside. Same way we can make this differentiation in a lot of other places also. Like if you have water vapors, right? Anhydrous calcium chloride, it will absorb the water vapor. Whereas as we mentioned before, right, silica gel, it will make the water molecules to settle on the surface of it. Okay, anhydrous calcium chloride, absorb. Silica gel, only surface adsorption. So how do we put it in a very simple phenomena? When we say the adsorption, the particles concentration will be increasing only on the surface. So the adsorption rate, concentration of the adsorbate will be increasing only at the surface. Whereas in case of absorption, the concentration, because it will go inside, full volume it will occupy, the concentration will be increasing uniformly throughout. So this is the fundamental difference between adsorption and absorption. Now we will have a question, is it like always either this or that, or they can happen together? They can happen together also. Like, we can have phenomena where we will see that the concentration of particles on surface will be increasing, and also the concentration inside also will be increasing. When they happen together, right, that's what we will be referring as sorption. So look at it, that ad, ab, just remove them. We call it as what? Just sorption. Sorption is what? It is to describe when both the processes are happening together. Okay, so these words we have to be a little bit careful. Now when you look at the mechanism of adsorption, so this is where we said how the surface area will play a role in adsorption. So we will talk about all these things. When we look at adsorption, right, why is it happening? First of all, if you take any surface, let's talk about the solid surface. We will have two types of solid molecules. I am showing them in different colors. One is the solid molecules on the surface. Other is the solid molecules which are well inside. You take any solid molecule that is well inside, right? Just look at it. It will have forces balanced on all directions. Okay, so if you look at inside the adsorbent, any molecule you focus, right, all the forces acting will be what? Mutually balanced. Whereas when it comes to the surface, look at the particles on the surface. Just focus on the particles at the surface. If you look at the particles on the surface, they will have unbalanced forces. They will experience unbalanced forces. We will see that. So we have a solid. Let us look at the particles on the surface. So they will experience forces only in one direction. Means what? They will have unbalanced forces acting on them. And as a result of it, right, they will be having a tendency to attract anything that is coming from the other side. Means a gas particle is coming from the other side or a liquid particle is coming from the, they will be able to attract them, anything that is coming on the other side, because of these unbalanced forces. And as you can clearly see here, the surface area is more, means what? You will have more area that is available for the particles of the gas or the liquid to get attracted and to come and settle on the surface. So clearly what we see is that the extent of adsorption. So we'll see how do we quantify this also. We'll have a method to quantify it. So the extent of adsorption will be increasing with increase of the surface area per unit mass of the adsorbent. So here always we'll measure it as what? What is the amount of surface area per unit mass of the adsorbent. Okay, so why the adsorption happens? Fundamentally, the particles on the surface of the solid, they'll have unbalanced forces, so they can attract anything that is coming from the other side, and that is what will make the particles of the liquid or gas to come and settle. And one thing we can see, as the surface area is more, means what? More number of particles can come and settle, right? So a higher surface area will mean what? More is the extent of adsorption. And one more thing is the adsorption is a negative enthalpy process. What is this adsorption? It is a negative enthalpy process. What do you mean by negative enthalpy process? Just think about it. When you have gas particles or liquid particles, okay, so this is the solid. When you have a gas particles or liquid particles coming and settling, so from here they are coming and settling on the surface. It is like condensation. From the gaseous medium they are coming and settling on the surface, means what? It is condensation. It is getting condensed. So what is condensation? Heat will be released. So whenever you talk about adsorption, right, it is always what? It is an exothermic process. Heat will be always released. So here, they have given wordings like, the decrease of residual forces, etc. So this is a little bit confusing. So let's not look at that part. But the way we can understand how heat will be released is, just think of the adsorption like the condensation. The particles from the gas are coming and settling on surface of the solid, means what? Condensing. To evaporate, we have to supply heat. Condensation, heat will be released, right? As simple. Okay, so any adsorption you see, it will be always what? A process which will have energy released, means what? Exothermic. That's why how do we show in terms of enthalpy change? Exo means what? Delta H will be negative. So this is about the enthalpy change in a adsorption process. Now when you look at, normally when you talk about in the language of thermodynamics, right, we'll talk about what is the enthalpy change, what is the entropy change, and what is the free energy change. Based on free energy change, we can tell whether it is spontaneous or non-spontaneous. Now when you say that the particles of the gas are coming and settling on the surface of the solid, what is happening? The freedom of movement of the molecules is getting restricted. In gas, they will be able to move freely. They are coming and settling, means what? The freedom is restricted. Means what? The entropy is decreasing. Entropy decreasing means what? It is a negative entropy change process. So what is it? Already we have seen. What is it? Delta H is what? For the adsorption, delta H is what? Negative. So we have seen that delta H will be negative. Now we see that entropy change also will be negative. Why it is negative? Because the movement of the particles is restricted. But if you look at adsorption, right, all this time what we are saying, we are observing a tendency for the particles to come and settle on the surface of solid. What is it? It's a spontaneous process. We are not initiating it. It's a spontaneous process. Now for a spontaneous process means what? Del G must be negative. So for an adsorption, delta G must be what? Negative. Because it is spontaneous, we are not initiating it. How we can have del G negative, tell me? Because what is the formula for delta G? The Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, what is it? Del G is equal to what? Del H minus T delta S. What is the equation called as Gibbs-Helmholtz equation, right? Here, del H is negative. This is negative. Del S is also negative. But you see, when you put minus T del S, right, this is overall what? Positive. Because you put a minus. So if you want to have delta G negative means, when it will be happening? It will happen when the delta H value is more than T delta S. The value of delta H is more than T delta S. So only then we will be able to have what? The overall delta G negative. Okay. So when we allow the adsorption to happen, what happens is, when we will see that, when you go to the types of adsorption, we will see as more and more particles are coming and settling on the surface of the solid, the delta H value will keep decreasing. Means initially when adsorption is happening, more amount of heat will be released. As the time goes by, right, the amount of heat released will keep on decreasing. So what happens is, as the adsorption is proceeding, we will see that del H becomes less and less negative. And ultimately we will reach a stage where del H is equal to what? T delta S. We will reach a stage where del H is equal to T delta S, which means what? It means in that case del G will become 0. So initially when the adsorption is starting, right, we will see that del G will be negative. But as adsorption is proceeding, what we will see is that we will ultimately reach the stage of equilibrium, where the del G will finally become equal to what? 0. So this is how we will see the adsorption proceeding. So what are the three things we need to keep in mind for the adsorption? Enthalpy change negative, entropy change negative. Because it is spontaneous, del G also will be what? Negative. Okay, so this is what we need to keep in mind. And as the adsorption proceeds, we will see that del H becomes less and less negative, meaning what? The amount of heat released will keep on decreasing as more and more layers are getting formed. And eventually we will reach a stage where the delta H becomes equal to what? T delta S. That is the equilibrium stage. Okay. Now, when we want to talk about what are the types of adsorption, we have mainly two categories. One, adsorption that will happen because of the weak van der Waals forces of interaction between the adsorbent and adsorbate. Merely physical kind of interactions. That's why we call it as physical adsorption or physisorption. But if we have the gas molecules or the atoms having a chemical bond, the chemical bond may be having covalent nature or ionic nature, but if they are having a chemical interaction and then forming a bond with the adsorbent, then we will call it as a chemical adsorption or chemisorption. So we will see what are the differences between the two. Chemisorption, right? When you want to have a chemical bond means it will be very selective. The molecules or atoms of the adsorbate should form a bond means what? It will be selective. It will not be generic. Physical adsorption, right? It will be generic. So there will be no selectivity. But chemical adsorption will be very selective. So we will see the differences also. So the chemical bonds, they may be covalent in terms of nature or they may be ionic. And because when we talk about the chemical reaction, right, we will have what? Remember, the energy diagram. What is it? Every chemical reaction we need to have activation energy requirement. So the chemisorption will be involving high energy of activation. For physisorption, that will not be the case. That's why the chemisoption, right, it is also called as activated adsorption. Means the normal energy level of the particles will not be sufficient to initiate the chemical adsorption. They have to be activated, they have to be given some energy so that they will reach the activation energy level. And when you look at, what happens normally is initially at low temperature, we may have the physical adsorption starting. And later, it might convert itself into chemical adsorption. Why? Because initially, only when the physical adsorption is happening, right, a sufficient energy will be released so that, the energy will be able to initiate the chemical adsorption. Suppose if you look at, the dihydrogen that is getting adsorbed on the surface of the nickel, initially we will have the molecules of the hydrogen, they will be having adsorbed onto the surface of nickel through van der Waals forces. Now, as the energy is released, what we will see is that molecules of the hydrogen, right, they will dissociate into hydrogen atoms. The hydrogen atoms will be chemically bonded to the surface of the nickel. The hydrogen atoms will be chemically bonded to the surface of the nickel. So we will talk about that also as we go and discuss about the chemical adsorption. Like typically the oxygen atoms, right, they will be bonded to the surface of the metals because they can form oxides. Similarly, the hydrogen atoms can be bonded to the surface of the transition metals because they can form hydrides. That's what happens in the chemical adsorption. So for physical adsorption, it can start right away, but chemical adsorption, right, it has to go through the activation energy requirement. Now we'll see what are the characteristics of physisorption and what are the characteristics of the chemisorption. Physisorption, as we mentioned, right, it will not have any specificity. Why? Because there is no specific nature of the adsorbate and adsorbent requirement. So any gas can have physical adsorption onto any solid. There is no specificity. And the physical adsorption will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. So if you look at particularly the adsorption of a gas onto the surface of the solid, a gas which is more liquefiable. How do we identify a gas which is more liquefiable? So remember, we have to look at our understanding from the states of matter chapter in +1. Critical temperature. So what is it? For a gas, if the critical temperature is more, means what? That gas is more liquefiable gas. So we can easily liquefy the gas. So if you are comparing, the extent of adsorption of sulfur dioxide, look at what is the critical temperature, 630. Methane, 190 critical temperature. Dihydrogen, what is the critical temperature, 33. So what we will see is a gas which is more liquefiable will get readily adsorbed because the van der Waals interactions will be what? Stronger. So in that way, what we will see is a sulfur dioxide will be absorbing more than methane, than a hydrogen. So how the physical adsorption will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate? Very simple. A gas which can be easily liquefied, that will get adsorbed more. That's it. Now talking about the reversible nature. When we look at any phenomena, we said it will have both forward and reverse. Here also what we have, forward we call as adsorption, reverse we call it as what? Desorption. So solid, that is attracting the gas particles and gas particles settling on the surface of solid, that is the forward. What is the reverse? The gas particles getting removed from the surface of solid, that is the reverse. When you look at this, right, it is an exothermic. Exothermic means what? As per the Le-Chatelet principles, when the temperature is less, that will be more favorable. So because it is exothermic, the physical adsorption can happen readily at the low temperature. And if increased temperature means what? The amount of adsorption will be decreasing. Because remember, for the exothermic, what is the favorable condition as per the Le-Chatelet principles? Low temperature. And based on Le-Chatelet principles, we can also talk about the effect of pressure. So if you look at it, right, where we have the gas particles, here we can say on the, if you look at like a reaction, we can say on the left side. Right side we don't have any gas particles. Why? Because gas is already settled on surface of solid. Only the left side we have the gas particles. Remember, what is the Le-Chatelet principle idea? If we increase the pressure, the reaction will go in a direction where the number of gas particles is less. That is the Le-Chatelet principle guideline, right? So maybe you can just go and check the idea of the Le-Chatelet principles once on how equilibrium will be shifted when you change the parameters. So here when we increase the pressure, what happens? Reactant side we have gas molecules. Product side there is no gas molecule, right? Because the gases are adsorbed on surface of solid. So if we increase the pressure means what? The reaction will proceed in a direction where the number of gas particles is less. Means what? Means what? The reaction is going to proceed in the forward direction. Forward direction means we'll have more adsorption happening. Okay, so what is the effect of pressure? More gas will be adsorbed when the pressure is increased. So when we increase the pressure means what? More gas will be adsorbed onto the surface of the solid. Okay, so this is about the effect of temperature and pressure. So for the physical adsorption, right, let me just write them again. What are the favorable conditions? This is how we can see, while we are discussing the NCERT line as it is, we should understand, what kind of questions can be framed finally. Like, somebody is framing question means what kind of questions can be framed. They can ask us what are the favorable conditions for the physical adsorption. What are the favorable conditions? Pressure must be high and then temperature must be low. These are the favorable conditions. Okay. Now the surface area part, right? The extent of adsorption will be increasing with increase of surface area. So as we have seen, like, we have more surface area means more particles can come and settle. And when you have a finely divided metal or a porous substance, that will be able to give larger surface area, and hence they will be able to act as a good adsorbent. That is the reason why in some chemical reactions, when you are using metals as catalyst, right, you will see the words finely divided. Why? What is the need or what is the advantage of finely dividing? Because it will be able to provide larger surface area. And when you look at the enthalpy of adsorption, here we are discussing about the physical adsorption. Then we will go and discuss about the chemical adsorption. But both physical adsorption and chemical adsorption, both of them are what? Exothermic. But the enthalpy of adsorption will be less in case of the physical adsorption. Why? Because it is just the energy released due to the van der Waals interactions, right? It is the energy released due to the van der Waals interactions. There is no actual chemical bond formed. When you go to the chemical adsorption, right, when there is a chemical bond formed means the amount of energy released will be more. Let's talk about the chemical adsorption. Okay, chemical adsorption, it is highly specific. Why? Because we are saying there has to be a chemical bond that has to be formed. Okay, so when you want to talk about the chemical bonding possibility between adsorbate and adsorbent, it has to be very specific. Like I was giving example, right? Oxygen will be adsorbed on the metal because oxides can form. Hydrogen can be adsorbed in the transition metals, like the example we gave, right? Hydrogen on nickel. That will happen because of the hydride formation. And the other characteristic feature is the physical adsorption. We can say it's easily reversed. Whereas a chemical adsorption, it is involving a compound formation. In case of physical adsorption, like low temperature, the particles will come and settle. If you increase temperature means what? The particles will move away. It can be easily reversed. But since there is a chemical compound that is formed, what we have to say, it is irreversible in terms of nature. Usually, okay. And the chemical adsorption is also what? Exothermic. Exothermic means what we should have? We should be having low temperature preferred, right? Because as per the Le Chatelier principles, what do we see? Whenever we have a exothermic, low temperature should give us more yield. But the problem with the chemical adsorption is, at low temperatures, right, the chemical adsorption will be very slow. Why? Because chemical adsorption requires activation energy. Now, activation energy has to be supplied by increasing temperature, right? So, what we see is initially the adsorption will be increasing with the rise of temperature, but ultimately if you keep on increasing temperature like that means again it will decrease. So, the chemical adsorption, right, we might see a trend like this. Initially it will be low, we will reach higher value. After that, if you keep on increasing temperature means what? It will again decrease, because at the end of the day this is also what? Exothermic. Exothermic means what? High temperature not preferable. Low temperature should be preferable. But what is the problem with very low temperature? The molecules, they don't have sufficient activation energy for undergoing the chemical bonding. And usually what we see happening is, it will start with physisorption of the gas particles getting adsorbed at low temperature, and as the energy is released and temperature is raised, we will see that slowly it will be converting into what? Chemical adsorption. Like the example we discussed, the nickel and hydrogen. Just like the physical adsorption, right? What is it? Here also, gas plus solid gives rise to the gas on the solid. Pressure concept same. Le Chatelier principles, what is it? High pressure will move the reaction to go in a direction where the number of gas particles less, means it will move in the forward direction. So, for chemical adsorption also, high pressure is favorable. Surface area also we don't have much difference, because just like physical adsorption, right? More surface area means what? There is more possibility for the molecules of the gas to come and adsorb. Enthalpy of adsorption, remember in physical adsorption what we said, it is less. But here it will be comparatively high. What is it? 80 to 240 kilojoule per mole, because it is actually involving the formation of the bond. Now, just to summarize the differences, before we summarize the differences, there is one more additional point that we need to mention. If you look at a chemical adsorption and a physical adsorption, there is one more fundamental difference. A chemical adsorption is usually a unilayer phenomena, single layer. Why? Because the particles will come and form a chemical bond, means that's it. Only one layer can form. But a physical adsorption, right, is a multi-layer phenomena. What is it? It's a multi-layer phenomena. Means, you know, you don't have a chemical bonding, right? Only the van der Waals interaction. So we can have more layers of the gas particles also coming and settling. But a chemical adsorption is just what? A single layer phenomena. Once one layer is forming bond, you have to form a bond here, right? Once the bond is formed, means that's it. You cannot have a second layer, third layer. That is another difference between chemical adsorption and the physical adsorption. So we'll just summarize the differences. Physical adsorption is because of what? Van der Waals interaction. Chemical adsorption is because of chemical bond formation. Physical adsorption, it is not specific in nature. Chemical adsorption is specific. Why? Because you have to form a chemical bond. Physical adsorption can be easily reversed. This is relatively difficult for reversing because you form a chemical compound. How it will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. Physical adsorption, more liquefiable gas means more readily it will be adsorbing. Chemical adsorption also will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. See how it will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. The relation will be different. The gases which can easily react with the adsorbent. Here the nature means what it is about, whether the gas particles can easily react with the solid molecules. So it is about the reaction possibility. In physical adsorption, it is not about reaction, it is about how easily the gas can be liquefied. That is the way in which the adsorption will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. Enthalpy of adsorption is less, 20 to 40 kilojoule per mole. Here it is high because we will have a chemical bond formation, 80 to 240. Physical adsorption, because it is del H negative, low temperature is favorable. If you increase temperature means what? The layers of the gas molecule settle, they will start coming out. The adsorption will decrease if you raise the temperature. Chemical adsorption, here we are saying high temperature is favorable, but we have to use this word with a caution. What is it? Chemical adsorption also delta H negative. Means what? At very high temperatures, it is not favorable. But why we are talking about high temperature is, if you have very low temperature, the activation energy requirement at very low temperature, the activation energy requirement is not met. That's why we need sufficiently high temperature. And usually what we see is, initially it will be increasing with increase of temperature. And often what we see, what will start as a physical adsorption will after certain temperature will convert into chemical adsorption when we reach the activation energy requirement. But if you make the temperature to be very high means, because at the end of the day, what is it? This is also del H negative process. So the adsorption will again decrease. Physical adsorption, we don't need any activation energy. Chemical adsorption will require high activation energy. Surface area, both same. So if you increase surface area means adsorption will increase, both chemical adsorption as well as physical adsorption. This is the point I said, right? Physical adsorption result in what? Multi-layer. Chemical adsorption is what? Uni-layer, single layer phenomenon. Okay, so these are the differences between physical adsorption and the chemical adsorption. Now, how do we study the adsorption quantitatively? Like if you want to understand what is the amount of the gas that is adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent, we can measure this in terms of the extent of adsorption. So if you study this at constant temperature and try to plot a graph, that's what we will be calling as adsorption isotherm. So what is adsorption isotherm? I'll just show it to you. So if you are plotting what is the extent of adsorption with the pressure of the gas. So this is the graph at 195 Kelvin, 244 and 273. So as you can see here, one thing that will be very starking from the graphical representation is as the temperature is increased, what we are seeing, the extent of adsorption is decreasing. So this is something that we have even discussed based on our analysis, because adsorption at the end of the day is what? Exothermic, right? So if you increase the temperature means the amount of adsorption will decrease. Now the empirical study to relate the parameters is what we will learn through the Freundlich adsorption isotherm. So this gives an empirical relation between the quantity of the gas that is adsorbed per unit mass of the solid adsorbent. So here if you look at this x by m, right, here what is x? X is the mass of the gas that is absorbed on m. M is the mass of the adsorbent. So it is the quantity of the gas that is absorbed per unit mass of the solid adsorbent. And pressure. So the relation is between the extent of adsorption and pressure for a fixed temperature. So if you look at the empirical relation, right, so it is x by m is equal to k into p power 1 by n. So in this p is of course the pressure, and k and n are constants which will depend on the nature of the adsorbent and the gas. So the K value and N value, they will depend upon the nature of adsorbent and the gas. Of course, the K and N value will be for a given temperature. The value of K and N will be corresponding to a particular value of temperature. And when we represent this in the graphical manner, the relation between the extent of adsorption and the pressure, this is how this is the experimental representation of the relation. So this is what is also explained by using the empirical formula. Now when you look at these curves, one thing that is very clear from the curves is, if you fix a pressure, right? So for a fixed pressure, as the temperature is for a fixed value of pressure, as temperature is increasing, what do we see? See, this is 195, this is 244. As temperature is increasing, what is happening? The adsorption is actually decreasing. Okay, so as the temperature is increasing, we see a decrease in the adsorption. And one more thing that we will see from these experimental curves is, we will reach saturation at high pressure. Like, what is this saturation? We'll see all the curves, right? So they are basically getting what this level is, what we call as the saturation level. So we are reaching to a saturation amount of the adsorbate per unit mass of the adsorbent. And in a while we will see that this is one of the what we call as a drawbacks of the Freundlich adsorption isothermy equation. So if you look at the equation, right, what is the equation? X by m is equal to K into P power 1 by n. The value of n will be more than 1. As you said, both the K value and n value will depend upon what? The nature of the adsorbent, the type of gas, and also the temperature. So if you look at it, right, we can take a logarithm on both sides. Log of x by m is equal to what? Log K plus log of P power 1 by n. So this we can also read it as what? Log of x by m is equal to log K plus the 1 by n will come forward, 1 by n into log P. So this is what is the equation 5.2. So if you want to check or validate the Freundlich isotherm, then when you plot log x by m on the y-axis and log P on the x-axis, look at this. How is this equation? This equation in normal sense, right? How is it? It is like y is equal to C plus mx type. So which means what? Here the value of slope. What is the slope of this? If this is fitting into a straight line equation, the slope of the straight line is what? 1 by n. And what is the y-intercept? Y-intercept means the distance to the point where the line is touching the y-axis. The y-intercept will be what? Log K. So if you want to validate the Freundlich isotherm, we can validate it by checking whether it is fitting in the form of a straight line or not. If it is fitting in the form of a straight line, then the Freundlich adsorption isothermy is validated. Now when you look at the practical validity of the Freundlich isotherm, it is observed that for the limited range of pressure, not at the extremely higher value of pressure, but for the limited normal range of pressure, the adsorption isotherm equation was holding true. This is the equation 5.2. This is holding true with the values of 1 by n. So we said 1 by n value should be, n is more than 1 means what? 1 by n will be less than 1. The value of 1 by n probable range is 0.1 to 0.5. So over the short range of pressure, the Freundlich empirical equation was holding true. So even if you look at some cases like the adsorption which is independent of the pressure, means what? If you have to have an adsorption which is independent of the pressure, look at the relation. What is it? X by m is equal to K P power 1 by n. If 1 by n is equal to 0, if 1 by n is equal to 0, right, what do we have? X by m is equal to K. So that adsorption will be independent of pressure. If you have the adsorption relation where the extent of adsorption is directly proportional to pressure, even that will be satisfied if you take the value of 1 by n is equal to 1. So if you put the value of 1 by n is equal to 1, what do we have? X by m is equal to K into P, means the extent of adsorption is directly proportional to pressure. But the problem with the Freundlich adsorption isotherm equation is, as per the practical observation, what is seen is there is going to be a saturation. At higher pressures, the adsorption curves, isotherm curves, they will reach saturation. But if you want to have saturation, right, that cannot be explained by using this equation. So we cannot explain the saturation by using the Freundlich adsorption isotherm equation. So the experimental isotherms, they always seem to approach the saturation at high pressure, and this we cannot explain from the Freundlich isotherm, because if you take a value of 1 by n, like we take a value of x by m is equal to suppose K into P power 0.1 or something, we always see that it will be depending upon the pressure. After certain higher value of pressure, saturation means what? From there, even if you increase the pressure, means it should not affect our extent of adsorption. But that cannot be seen from the equation, right? Because this equation clearly tells us what? As long as the pressure is changing, we will have an impact. So that is where the Freundlich isotherm will be failing. And we also have a couple of more isotherms that are not there in the NCERT. We have something called as Langmuir isotherm. Then there is one more thing called as BET isotherm, BET isotherm. Okay, so all that is not there in the NCERT, so we will not cover it here. When you look at the adsorption of solute, which is there in solution onto the surface of a solid, because what we said, we can have gas particles coming and settling on surface of solid. Particles which are in solution, right, solute particles, they can also come and settle on the surface of the solid. The solid can also adsorb solutes from solutions. Like when you take, acetic acid in water and shake this with charcoal, right, we'll see that part of the acid will be adsorbed on the surface of the charcoal. How do we know it? When we measure the concentration of the acid in the solution, right, we'll see that the concentration of acid in solution will be decreasing. Same way, if you take a litmus solution and shake this with charcoal, right, we'll see that the litmus solution also becomes colorless. Why? Because the colored pigments are getting adsorbed. Even when you look at the magnesium hydroxide precipitate, when you have it in the presence of Magneson reagent, so Magneson reagent, we can just see what this is. It's a reagent that is used as an indicator, and whenever there is an presence of magnesium, right, it will be able to give its characteristic color. So the precipitate of magnesium hydroxide, it will attain the blue color, because when there is a Magneson reagent, that will be getting precipitated on the surface of the magnesium hydroxide. When you look at the examples like this, right, the idea that we will get is even from the liquid solutions, the solute particles can come and adsorb on the surface of the solid. When you look at what are the characteristics of this adsorption, of course, I mean in our NCERT itself, other than the brief discussion, the details of what is the mechanism of the adsorption and all these things are not that much delved into. So we will also try to see whatever is given as per the coverage. So here if you look at the extent of adsorption, that will decrease with increase of temperature. This is similar to our the previous gas adsorption. And the extent of adsorption will increase with the increase of surface area of the adsorbent. Same, right? Previously, what is it? When you increase the surface of the solid, more adsorption can happen. Here also same thing. And the extent of adsorption depends on the concentration of solute. So remember previously, what is it? We have a solid and gas particles getting adsorbed, right? So we mentioned that there will be a dependence on the pressure. So here the dependency is on what? It is on the concentration of the solute inside the solution. And also the extent of adsorption, right? It will depend upon the both nature of the adsorbate and adsorbent. So when you talk about the physical adsorption, we have seen that physical adsorption will depend upon the nature of the adsorbate. Chemisorption will depend upon both the nature of adsorbent and the nature of adsorbate, because chemical adsorption is what we have to form chemical bond between them. So here the adsorption of a solute onto the surface of solid, it depends upon both the nature of adsorbent as well as the adsorbate. Now when you look at the analogous Freundlich adsorption isotherm expression, right? So there what is it that we had? The extent of adsorption means this is the X is what? The mass of the adsorbate, M is the mass of the adsorbent, is equal to what? K into P power 1 by N. So here we will be having K into C power 1 by N. So instead of pressure we will have what? Concentration. So here C will be what? The concentration of the solute that is there in the solution. So if we take a logarithm of this equation, right, what we will get? Same. So log of X by M is equal to what? Log K plus log of C power 1 by N. The 1 by N will come forward. What is it? Log of X by M is equal to what? Log K plus 1 by N log C. So we will see that we will have analogous relation. And if we want to check the validity of the Freundlich adsorption isotherm, we will have to plot a graph. So we will have to plot a graph of log X by M as the Y coordinate and log C as the X coordinate. When you plot it, the slope of the line will be what? 1 by M. So we will be able to check the slope and we will be able to validate whether the Freundlich isotherm is applicable for this adsorption of a solute from a solution onto the surface of the solid. Okay, so here when you want to calculate what is the mass of the substance that is deposited, like what we can do is experimentally speaking, if you are taking the initial state of the concentration and final state, we can measure what is the difference between the two. So initially whatever is the concentration that is there, finally whatever is the concentration, the difference between the concentrations, right, the difference between initial and final concentrations will give us what is the value of X. Like say we talk about the example of acetic acid. Acetic acid is in water, that is solution. We will measure what is the initial amount, we will measure what is the final amount. Okay, so we will measure what is the initial amount, we will measure what is the final amount. The difference between them is what? The amount that is coming and settling on the surface of solid. So that way we can measure what is the value of X by M and plot it. So when we see the log X by M versus log C graph coming as a straight line, the slope will be what? 1 by N, and thereby we can validate the applicability of the Freundlich isotherm, just like the way we validated for the case of adsorption of gas on the surface of solid. Here also we can validate that. Now talking about the applications, so where all we will use the adsorption. So if you want to produce high vacuum, like in the beginning itself when we said, right, we want to create very a surface without anything on it, we want to create a very pure surface in that sense. So how do we do it? We have to remove everything from the surface. For that we have to create a high vacuum, like we even said 10 power minus 8 to 10 power minus 9 Pascal, like that. So how do we create this high vacuum environment? So if you look at any room or any space for that matter, you will have, even though you use a vacuum pump to take out the air, right, you will have some traces of air left behind. But if you throw some charcoal into that vessel, so we will see that whatever the traces of the air, whether it is oxygen or nitrogen, they will come and adsorb on the surface of the charcoal, and we can remove the charcoal and thereby we will remove the gas also. Even gas masks, right? So what is the main use of gas masks? They will have to, so if you have somebody who is working in mine, they will use a gas mask. So when they breathe, the poisonous gases, because in the coal mine we will have a lot of different types of gases coming. So these gas masks, right, that are used in coal mines, etc., they will adsorb all the poisonous gases and they can beat the fresh air. So the gas mask will be containing what? Activated charcoal, and in some cases they can have a mixture of different types of adsorbents suiting the requirement. Even if you want to control the humidity, this also we have mentioned before. Silica or alumina gel, right? They will be able to absorb the moisture, and they can control the humidity levels in a particular closed environment. If you want to remove the colored matter from solutions, we have seen animal charcoal can be used. If you want to remove the color from any dye stuff, or you want to remove the color of say raw sugar solution, that can be done by using what? Animal charcoal. So this is a thing that we are going to study in our part 2 in detail, that is about the heterogeneous catalysis. If you are using say for example the iron as a catalyst in manufacture of ammonia Haber-Bosch process, or we use nickel or platinum or palladium in the hydrogenation of oils. So in those cases we will study again about this in detail in our second part. So the heterogeneous catalysis, right, it basically works on the idea that the reactant gases, whether it is hydrogen and nitrogen, they will come and they will settle on the surface of the solid iron, and thereby the reaction will happen faster. So we will study in equilibrium that catalyst, right, will speed up the reaction. Even in chemical kinetics chapter also we talked about it. Okay, so we will study again in detail about the heterogeneous catalysis in our part 2. Like we have there, we will see a lot of other examples also. Okay, and even we know inert gases as such, right, they are one of the last to be discovered. But when you want to separate them, they are present in air in minor amount. So when you want to separate them, the difference in the degree of adsorption of these gases on charcoal, right, that is the property that is exploited. They have a mixture of noble gases, right, they adsorb to different extents on the charcoal. That property is what is used to separate them. Even when it comes to the action of certain drugs, like certain drugs, they will kill the germs by getting adsorbed onto the surface. So that way even we will see that the adsorption phenomena is used in the medicinal purposes also. So in metallurgy chapter we talk about this enriching process, ore enriching process. It's called froth flotation. This is mainly for the sulfide ores. Low grade sulfide ore means a sulfide ore which is having contaminants like silica or other gangue particles. What we will do in froth flotation is we will take the entire finely divided ore particles along with, of course, the impurities, etc. So that will be put in a container, and we will be using pine oil and frothing agent, and we will stir it basically. So we will talk about this in metallurgy, how the entire process will work, but basic idea is this: the ore particles, right, they will be able to adsorb to the froth, whereas the gangue particles and all, they will settle inside the frothing chamber itself, and the ore particles, they will come along with the froth and they can be taken out. So we will talk about how the froth flotation process exactly works. So that is a method for the enriching of the ore that is used particularly for the sulfide ore. And even we can have adsorption indicators, like the way normally at the end of the reaction, right, we'll have the indicator, there will be a sudden color change. So we'll have indicators for the neutralization, and we'll have indication for the completion of the redox reactions. We'll have different types of indicators. Like we can also have indicator which works on the principle of adsorption. Like surface of substance like silver halide, right, they can adsorb some dyes like eosin or fluorescein. So what are these eosin? They are basically fluorescent acidic compounds which will be able to bind to things like silver halide, and when they are binding means adsorption. When they are binding, right, there will be a reaction happening between halogen and the eosin, and that will give the characteristic color or stain. and when you see the stain produced, right, that's an indicator showing that this is the end point. Okay, so we can also use adsorption indicators, where at the end of the reaction we'll see that once the adsorption is starting, right, we'll see that there is a color stain that is being produced. Even the chromatographic analysis, so this is a phenomena that works on the principle of adsorption. So we'll have different types of chromatography. For example, we talk about say column chromatography. Like, you know, we have a column, so in that column we'll take a gel. This is usually what we call as the fixed medium, and at the top right we will be pouring in a mixture of different components. Now, depending upon the level of adsorption, right, if the component is adsorbed more, means that will be at the top layer. The ones that are adsorbed less, they will keep coming down. Thereby we will be able to separate the components. So the chromatography methods, right, the word chromatography comes because it is started with the separation of the color dyes. So but again, the process will be working on the phenomena of adsorption, and we will have a lot of, in organic chemistry also we will talk about the chromatography methods of separation. Okay, so all this they will work on the principle of adsorption. Now, looking at some questions, right, so these are in-text questions. Why are substances like platinum, palladium are often used for carrying out electrolysis of aqueous solutions? So here, you know, there are actually two reasons for that. One reason is, of course, when they are used as electrode. Okay, so what they will be, because they will be able to provide better adsorption of the solute particles. Solute particles will be able to come and adsorb better on the surface of the electrode, right? That's one reason. Second reason, this is something related to the electrochemistry. So these are also inert electrodes. I mean, obviously this is not the context here. Inert electrode means they themselves will not be a part of the reaction. So platinum, palladium, we call them as what? Inert electrodes. But here the reason that we are looking for is what? They provide better adsorption of the particles from solution or the electrolyte. That's the reason why we will be using them as what? Electrodes. The second question is, why does physisorption decrease with increasing temperature? What is the reason for that? The second question, right? It is an enthalpy negative process. Means what? If you increase temperature, what happens? The reaction means we look at like a process. So the gas particles coming onto the surface of the solid, and thereby they will be forming what? Gas on the solid. So as per the Le-Chatelier principles, right, this is an exothermic. So if you increase temperature, means what? The process will be moved in the reverse direction or backward. That's the reason why physisorption will be decreasing with increase of temperature. We can also answer this the other way, like think of it, right? On the surface of the solid, imagine if you are having the gas particles coming and settling. Okay. If you increase temperature, means what happens? The thermal energy of the particles will increase. The thermal energy of the particles will be what? Increases. So thereby they will be able to move away from the surface now. That way also we can explain this. Okay. The 5.3 is what? Why are the powdered substances more effective adsorbents than their crystalline form? So this is the reason that we give. When we talk about the powdered form, what is it? We will be able to have larger surface area. If we take a crystalline form, what is it? The surface area that they can provide will be less. So finely divided form or powdered form or minimum porous. If it is like polished smooth surface, means the contact surface will be less contact area. If you are having porous, then the contact area will be what? More. So always the adsorption rate will be favored with higher contact area. More contact area means we can have more adsorption happening. Okay, so this is about the part 1. In part 2 of this video, right, we will start with the catalysis, and part 3 we will talk about the colloids. Okay, so we will see in the next part video.